The Republic F-84F Thunderstreak was an American-built swept-wing turbojet fighter bomber. While an evolutionary development of the straight-wing F-84 Thunderjet, the F-84F was a new design. The RF-84F Thunderflash was a photo reconnaissance version. Development: in 1949, a swept-wing version of the F-84 was created with the hope of bringing performance to the level of the F-86. The last production F-84E was fitted with a swept tail, a new wing with 38.5 degrees of leading edge sweep and 3.5 degrees of anhedral, and a J-35A-25 engine producing 5,300 pound force of thrust. The aircraft was designated XF-96A. It flew on June 3, 1950 with Otto P. Haas at the controls. Although the airplane was capable of 602 knots, the performance gain over the F-84E was considered minor. Nonetheless, it was ordered into production in July 1950 as the F-84F Thunderstreak. The F-84 designation was retained because the fighter was expected to be a low-cost improvement of the straight-wing Thunderjet with over 55% commonality in tooling. In the meantime, the USAF, hoping for improved high-altitude performance from a more powerful engine, arranged for the British Armstrong Siddeley Sapphire turbojet engine to be built in the United States as the Wright J65. To accommodate the larger engine, F-84FS with a British-built Sapphire as well as production F-84FS with the J65 had a vertically stretched fuselage, with the air intake attaining an oval cross-section. Production delays with the F-84F forced the USAF to order a number of straight-wing F-84GS as an interim measure. Production quickly ran into problems. Although tooling commonality with the Thunderjet was supposed to be 55%, in reality only 15% of tools could be reused. To make matters worse, the F-84F utilized press-forged wing spars and ribs. At the time, only 3 presses in the United States could manufacture these, and priority was given to the Boeing B-47 straighter-jet bomber over the F-84. The J65W1 engine was considered obsolete and the improved J65W3 did not become available until 1954. When the first production F-84F finally flew on November 22, 1952, it differed from the service test aircraft. It had a different canopy which opened up and back instead of sliding to the rear, as well as air brakes on the sides of the fuselage instead of the bottom of the aircraft. The aircraft was considered not ready for operational deployment due to control and stability problems. The first 275 aircraft, equipped with conventional stabilizer elevator tailplanes, suffered from accelerated stall pitch-up and poor turning ability at combat speeds. Beginning with Block 25, the problem was ameliorated by the introduction of a hydraulically powered one-piece stabilator. A number of aircraft were also retrofitted with spoilers for improved high-speed control. As a result, the F-84F was not declared operational until May 12, 1954. Thunderflash. The second F-84F prototype was completed with wing root air intakes. These were not adopted for the fighter due to loss of thrust. However, this arrangement permitted placement of cameras in the nose and the design was adopted for the RF-84F Thunderflash reconnaissance version. The first RF-84F was completed in February 1952. The aircraft retained an armament of 4 machine guns and could carry up to 15 cameras. Innovations included computerized controls which adjusted camera settings for light, speed, and altitude, a periscope to give the pilot better visualization of the target, and a voice recorder to let the pilot narrate his observations. Being largely identical to the F-84F, the Thunderflash suffered from the same production delays and engine problems, delaying operational service until March 1954. The aircraft was retired from active duty in 1957, only to be reactivated in 1961, and finally retired from the ANG in 1972. Several modified Thunderflashes were used in the FICON project. Design: the Thunderstreak suffered from the same poor takeoff performance as the straight-wing Thunderjet despite having a more powerful engine. In reality, Almost 700 pounds force or 10% of total thrust was lost because the J-65 was installed at an angle and its exhaust had a prominent kink. On a hot day, 7,500 feet of runway were required for takeoff roll. A typical takeoff speed was 160 knots. Like the Thunderjet, the Thunderstreak excelled at cruise and had predictable handling characteristics within its performance envelope. Like its predecessor, it also suffered from accelerated stall pitch-up and potential resulting separation of wings from the airplane. In addition, spins in the F-84F were practically unrecoverable and ejection was the only recourse below 10,000 feet. Operational history. Project run and completed operational tests in November 1954 and found the aircraft to be to USAF satisfaction and considerably better than the F-84G. However, ongoing engine failures resulted in the entire fleet being grounded in early 1955. Also, the J-65 engine continued to suffer from flameouts when flying through heavy rain or snow. As a result of the problems, the active duty phase-out began almost as soon as the F-84F entered service in 1954, and was completed by 1958. Increased tensions in Germany associated with construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961 resulted in reactivation of the F-84F fleet. In 1962, the fleet was grounded due to the corrosion of control rods. A total of 1,800 man-hours were expended to bring each aircraft to full operational capacity. Stress corrosion eventually forced the retirement of ANG F-84Fs in 1971. On March 9, 1955, Lieutenant Colonel Robert A. Scott, in F-84F Thunderstreak, set a 3-hour, 44-minute and 53-second record for the 2,446-mile flight from Los Angeles to New York. With the appearance of the Republic F-105 Thunderchief, which also used wing root-mounted air intakes, the Thunderstreak became known as the Thud's mother. The earlier F-84A had been nicknamed the Hog, and the F-84F Super Hog, the F-105 becoming the Ultra Hog. In what is probably one of the very few air-to-air engagements involving the F-84F, two Turkish Air Force F-84F Thunderstreaks shot down two Iraqi Il-28 Beagle bombers that crossed the Turkish border by mistake during a bombing operation against Iraqi Kurdish insurgents. This engagement took place on August 16, 1962. The F-84F was retired from active service in 1964, and replaced by the North American F-100 Super Sabre. The RF-84F was replaced by the RF-101 Voodoo in USAF units, and relegated to duty in the Air National Guard. The last F-84F Thunderflash retired from the ANG in 1971. Three Hellenic Air Force RF-84Fs that were retired in 1991 were the last operational F-84s. Variants. YF-84F, two swept-wing prototypes of the F-84F, initially designated YF-96. F-84F Thunderstreak, swept-wing version with Wright J-65 engine. Tactical Air Command aircraft were equipped with low-altitude bombing system for delivering nuclear bombs. 2,711 built, 1,301 went to NATO under Mutual Defense Assistance Program. GRF-84F, 25 RF-84Fs were converted to be carried, and launched from the bomb bay of a GRB-36F bomber as part of the FICON project. The aircraft were later redesignated RF-84K. RF-84F Thunderflash, reconnaissance version of the F-84F, 715 built. RF-84K Thunderflash, RF-84F with a retractable probe for hookup with carrier GRB-36DS and tailplanes with marked anhedral, 25 redesignated from RF-84F. XF-84H, two F-84Fs were converted into experimental aircraft. Each was fitted with an Allison XT-40A1 turboprop engine of 5,850 shaft horsepower driving a supersonic propeller. Ground crews dubbed the XF-84H the Thunder Screech due to its extreme noise output. YF-84J, two F-84Fs were converted into YF-84J prototypes with enlarged nose intakes and a deepened fuselages for the General Electric J-73 engine. The YF-84J reached Mach 1.09 in level flight on April 7, 1954. The project was cancelled due to the excessive cost of converting extant F-84Fs. Operators: Belgium, Belgian Air Force, Republic of China Air Force, Denmark, Royal Danish Air Force, France, French Air Force, Germany, West German Air Force, Greece, Greek Air Force, Italy, Italian Air Force operated 194 Republic F-84F Thunderstreak and 78 RF-84F Thunderflash from 1956 until 1974, Netherlands, Royal Netherlands Air Force, Norway, Royal Norwegian Air Force, Turkey, Turkish Air Force, United States Air Force. Aircraft on display. Italy F-84F, 53-6892, Italian Air Force Museum, Vna di Volnia Rome. RF-84F Thunderflash, 52-7458, Italian Air Force Museum, Vna di Volnia Rome. Norway RF-84F Thunderflash, 51-7055, under restoration to original bare aluminium scheme, Air Force Training Center, Kjevik. 51-17045, Fly Historisk Museum, Sola, Stavanger Airport, Sola, near Stavanger. 51-17053, Fosforitz Gardermoen, Oslo Airport, Gardermoen near Oslo. Poland F-84F, 52-7157, Polish Aviation Museum, Kraków W. United Kingdom F-84F, 52-6541, Northeast Aircraft Museum, Sunderland. United States XF-84F, 49-2430, National Museum of the United States Air Force, Dayton, Ohio. F-84F. Unknown, on roadside display in Blacksville, West Virginia. 51-1386, Barksdale Global Power Museum, Barksdale AFB, Louisiana. 51-1620, Empire State Aerosciences Museum in Glenville, New York. 51-1639, Springfield Downtown Airport, Springfield, Missouri. 51-1640, Hill Aerospace Museum, Hill AFB, Utah. 51-1713, Delta County Airport in Escanaba, Michigan. 51-1714, Strategic Air and Space Museum in Ashland, Nebraska. 51-1772, Aerospace Museum of California in McClellan, California. 51-1786, Virginia Air and Space Center in Hampton, Virginia. 51-1797, Ohio ANG Base in Springfield, Ohio. 51-1817, Camp Robinson in Little Rock, Arkansas. 51-1818, Fairfield MAP in Iowa. 51-1822, Illinois ANG Base in Springfield, Illinois. 51-9350, Air Force Flight Test Center Museum at Edwards AFB, California. 51-9396, Holloman AFB, New Mexico. 51-9430, Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst, New Jersey. False markings of 52-7066 applied. 51-9432, Marchfield Air Museum in Riverside, California. 51-9433, Castle Air Museum in Atwater, California. 51-9444, Seminole Valley Park in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. 51-9451, Wilson Park in Granite City, Illinois. 51-9495, Air Force Armament Museum, Eglin AFB, Florida. 51-9501, Yankee Air Museum, Villaville, Michigan. 51-9514, Allen County War Memorial Coliseum in Fort Wayne, Indiana. 51-9531, Chanute Air Museum in Rantoul, Illinois. 52-6438, Georgia Veterans State Park in Cordele, Georgia. 52-6456, Veterans of Foreign Wars Post No. 6791, West Chicago, Illinois. 52-6461, Lackland AFB, Texas. 52-6470, Mountain Home AFB, Idaho. 52-6497, Iowa Gold Star Museum in Johnston, Iowa. 52-6526, National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. 52-6553, Window on the Plains Museum in Duma, Texas. 52-6563, Palmer Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona. 52-6634, Defense Supply Center Richmond in Richmond, Virginia. 52-6701, Museum of Aviation, Robbins AFB, Georgia. 52-6782, Luke AFB, Arizona. 52-7019, Cheyenne Municipal Airport in Wyoming. 52-7080, England AFB, Louisiana. 52-8837, Richmond Airport, Virginia. 52-8886, South Dakota Air and Space Museum at Ellsworth AFB, South Dakota. RF-84F Thunderflash, 51-1944, Palmer Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona. 51-11259, Lincoln Air National Guard Base, Nebraska. 52-7249, Dannelly Field ANG Collection, Montgomery, Alabama. 52-7259, National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio. 52-7265, Plains of Fame Museum in Chino, California. 52-7409, Birmingham ANGB, Birmingham, Alabama. 52-7421, Yankee Air Museum, Belleville, Michigan. Accidents and incidents. On April 4, 1957, the USAF Captain Richard W. Higgins died after a low ejection with one of the first F-84Fs of the German Air Force near the far one-quarter Rustenfeldbruck Air Base. In June 1957, Bud Day survived a no-shoot ejection from an F-84 in Britain following an engine fire. On August 29, 1961, a French Air Force F-84F clipped the cable of an aerial tramway at Mont-Blanc, killing 6 people and leaving 81 more stranded. The pilot was on a reconnaissance mission and was unaware of the accident until after he had landed. On September 14, 1961, 2 West German F-84Fs of the West German Air Force crossed into East German airspace due to a navigational error, eventually landing at Berlin-Tegel Airport, evading a large number of Soviet fighter aircraft. The event came at a historically difficult time during the Cold War, 1 month after the construction of the Berlin Wall. Specifications. Data from fighters of the United States Air Force, combat aircraft since 1945. General characteristics: crew, 1, length, 43 feet 4 3/4 in, wingspan, 33 feet 7 1/4 in, height, 14 feet 4 3/4 in, wing area, 325 ft², empty weight, 13,830 pounds, loaded weight, lb, max takeoff weight, 28,000 pounds, power plant, 1 Wright J65W3 turbojet, 7,220 pound-forces, performance, maximum speed, 695 miles per hour at sea. Level, range, 810 miles. Combat radius with 2 drop tanks, service ceiling, 46,000 feet, rate of climb, 8,200 feet per minute, wing loading, 86 pounds ft², armament, 6.50 in Browning M3 machine guns, up to 6,000 pounds of rockets and bombs, including 1 Mark 7 nuclear bomb, avionics, a 1 cm or A4 gun sight with APG-30 or Mk-18 ranging radar, communications equipment, ANARC-33 or 34 command set radio, ANAPX-6 or 6 AIFF set, ANAR-6. Radio compass, ANAPW-11 or 11A radar set, ANAPN-21 TACAN set. Notable appearances in media: Richard Bach, who later wrote the bestseller Jonathan Livingston Seagull, was an ANG F-84F pilot who was once activated for duty in Europe. His first book, Stranger to the Ground, described in detail what it was like to fly the Thunderstreak in the course of an operational flight at night from England to France in adverse weather. F-84Fs were also used to represent North Korean MiG-15 fighters in the 1958 film version of James Salter's novel The Hunters, because none of the Soviet fighters were available during the ongoing Cold War for filming. They were painted a flat gray with red star insignia. See also: Related development, Republic F-84 Thunderjet, Republic X F-84H Thunderscreech, RF-84K FICON, Republic X F-91 Thunderscepter, Republic F-105 Thunderchief, aircraft of comparable role, configuration and era, Dassault Mystery, de Havilland Venom, Grumman F-9 Cougar, Saab 32 Lansen. References. Notes Bibliography External links, F-84F Thunderstreak, F-84F at Mercer Airfield, Georgia.